Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and a new video on the Escort RS Turbo. In today's episode we are going to be looking at tackling the rot in the floor and finishing up welding the floor to the inner seal where we left off in the last video. But what I'll do is I'll just bring you over, I'll show you the state of the floor and what we've got to work with. So we'll crack on. So, as you probably saw in the last video, I had to cut this section of floor out when we welded this inner seal in because the rust had come up the edge and just started going over the top into the floor. But if you've noticed, I think where somebody jacked the car up, it's bent the floor, and it actually had bent this edge, this lip up. So I assume that's why potentially this is started to rust. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little bit of time to just try and beat this floor into shape, because I assume this roll here would come up and it would have just carried on through to here. So this potentially wants knocking down, and maybe this bit here as well. But also I'm going to take off this sound deadening here and just see how far, see what it's like under here. I mean, if this is okay, we'll end up just cutting this section out here. Potentially, yeah, probably round to here and just recreating a new piece of metal to go in here. And then filling this in, and that will be this done. So what I'll do is I'll just whack it on a bit of time lapse. We'll get all this cleaned up and we'll see what we've got to work with. So this is what we're left with after I give it a clean up, as you saw on the time lapse. I also try to straighten this piece out here. It's a lot better than what it was. It's not perfect, but I think by the time it's got under seal underneath and we put some more sound deadening back on the top side of the floor here, you're not really going to notice this. But if you can see, if I don't create too much shadow, the rust has crept under under the lip here. So what I think I'll do is I'll drill it out up to, say, this spot weld here. Yeah, because it looks like it's just crept here. So I'll drill this out from here all the way along here, and then we cut a section out. And we'll start fabricating a new piece of floor to go back in there. So I'll get that done now and I'll come back. Right, so after we cut it out and drill out spot welds, this is what we're left with, and this is what I cut out. So it's literally pretty much under this edge here. And that is obviously the floor, the underside. So what I'll do is I'll set to cutting out, templating this and cutting out another piece of metal in. And I think what we'll try and do, because obviously at the moment I've literally just cut this out, so it's not the straightest of cuts. So what I might try and do is another little bit of cut and butt and get it all nice and flush. So when you look up from underneath it, you don't hopefully not notice. So I'll make a template and drop back in. Right, so here we have the new piece I'm going to let into the floor. The plan is to let it in under here. Try and do this one-handed. Let it in under here, and then cap or push it up underneath. Get the spot welds. I'll get a couple of spot welds in, get it into place, and then we can push it down and cut and butt it into the floor. And then I can push this up. My hands go in the shadow. I can push this up into this corner, and we can get these two spot welds in, and then we got to infill this little piece here. So what I'll do now is I'll get the welder out and we get these spot welds tacked in. There we go, guys. That's that patch let in. And yeah, it was a bit of a bugger this time around because I couldn't quite get a 45-degree cut on this curve section, so it ended up with a wider cut. So obviously I had to try and bridge the weld to fill the gap, but along here it cut nicely, so it was only about a mil gap. As you probably saw in the time lapse, we patched this little piece in here and rolled it down and spot welded it to the inner seal, and then I made a little angle patch just to fill in here. I know I'm not particularly happy with it, but I spot welded it in and it's quite strong, so I think by the time it's seam sealed it'll be okay. But as you can see here, where the floor had been pushed up, where someone had obviously jacked the car up and bent the floor. So I mean, you saw in the time lapse I did try and still a bit wet. I did try and straighten this out. I did the best I could, but again, once this has got some sound deadening on, whether we go for a replication of this, or I end up putting some sort of dyno matting over the whole floor. But let me know in the comments what you guys have done to reduce road noise and strengthen everything up with sound deadening. I know with my van I sound deadened all the sides and the floor and everything with like a dyno matting, because I got a Volkswagen I got a Volkswagen van that I sort of semi-converted. I've insulated and everything, but I use it as a work van. But by having it insulated and sound deadened, it makes it so much nicer to drive. And also on cold days, it's a lot warmer inside, and it stays warm as well. So yeah, so let me know what you guys have used as sound deadening. Well, that's going to be it for today's video. It's a little shorter than normal, but we've only done one patch in the rear footwell today. Thanks very much for all your comments, guys. It's great to hear from you all and what projects you're currently doing, and I'm pleased that some of the videos that I do are helping you guys along the way with yours. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe. Also, if you are new to the channel, do please go back and look at the previous videos, just to say you catch up with the project and see where we're going with it. But once again, guys, thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.